Horror fan or not, we all love seeing those sexually active, drug-using, alcohol-abusing idiots we call our heroes in horror films meet their gruesome demise by a generally much more capable villain. But what about the big bads themselves? After all the suffering and chaos they cause our protagonists, don't they deserve their bloody, gory, and more often than not explosive moment in Death's spotlight? It goes without saying that great bad guys warrant good goddamn deaths. And spoiler alert, today we're talking about the very best of them. I'm Jony Horror Show with the Jony Horror Show, and here are 5 stupidly satisfying deaths of horror villains.
The first category we're going to take a look at is tragic terminations. It is the death of the villains who must die for the greater good of mankind, even if they themselves aren't malicious at heart or trying to cause harm. They are the misunderstood monsters of horror, characters like King Kong, Godzilla, Clover, and any other freak of nature trying to coexist with man. They're Frankenstein's monster, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and virtually any goddamn representation of the werewolf ever put on the big screen. But there's not a single fucking doubt in my mind that the most tragic termination of a horror villain is that of Seth Brundle from David Cronenberg's The Fly. Here's a character whose humility is matched only by his genius. A kind, well-mannered individual who, while socially awkward, still manages to be charming. His invention of teleportation devices permits him all the arrogance of Dr. Frankenstein and more. Arrogance, however, is not Brundle's downfall. It is in a moment of honest miscommunication that leads to a jealous and unsuspecting Brundle teleporting himself prematurely with a fly in the teleportation pod. It is this action that fuses his DNA with the fly's and slowly begins the grotesque decomposition of his human body, mind, and soul, while his girlfriend is left to watch helplessly as her once lover and friend becomes a monster against his will. And then she is forced to destroy what is left, which is very fucking little, I might add, of the man that she loves, in a climax that is without doubt one of the most tragic endings in the history of cinema, horror or otherwise. Next up, we're tackling the category I like to call perishing persecutors. It is the death of those villains that have tortured our heroes for the entire running time of the film, and in some fucking cases, its goddamn sequels. These are the big bads that not only put our good guys through the ringer physically, but also mentally and emotionally, so much so that by the time they actually do bite the dust, we're jumping out of our seats screaming, "That's right, motherfucker!" Think the deaths of John Ryder and the Hitcher, Max Cady from Cape Fear, The Collector, The Evil Dead, and pretty much the entire piece of shit family from Get Out. You bet your sweet tits Annie Wilkes is a contender because by the time she goes, I've already got half her fucking grave dug, but she'll have to settle for second place. Because the way I see it, could there be a more satisfying death of a titular torturer than that of the T-800 from the Terminator? The T-800 just doesn't fucking stop, man. He keeps going, determined to complete his mission well beyond what any human or even a malignant spirit would consider reasonable. He single-handedly destroys the person that Sarah Connor was, forcing her to become an entirely different human being just to survive. And only after he has destroyed her life, killed her lover, and left her unable to walk with barely a fucking pulse does Sarah manage to terminate that monster of a fucking robot. And my god is it so sweet. You'll be licking your lips whilst checking your goddamn pulse by the time the whole ordeal is through. It's time to dive into some true horror villain death cliches. More specifically, the false fatalities. These are your Freddy Kruegers, your Jason Voorhees, Chucky, Victor Crowley, and pretty much any slasher who has ever jumped back into frame at the last second to ensure that there will indeed be yet another freaking sequel! The exception being Halloween, as the ending was a creative choice by director John Carpenter to illustrate that Michael Myers is the personification of evil. And as we all know, evil cannot be fucking destroyed, which is why Michael Myers gets mega points for being the OG. But as far as who did it best, I'd have to say that award goes to Samara from The Ring. Now, the reason Samara beats out all the iconic slashers who practically invented this trope is pretty fucking simple. She does it best. Where Gore Verbinski's film shines is in the setup and the payoff. We have our climax as the sun sets and Rachel just barely manages to lay to rest the soul of the incredibly upset spirit of Samara. Nice ending. Very suspenseful, cleans everything up in a nice bow. But the film keeps going. The tension builds and builds until the moment we realize that wasn't the fucking climax we just saw, but a setup. And the payoff we are now witnessing is fucking horrifying, but in the best way possible. Samara coming out of the TV to kill Noah is about a bazillion times cooler than a Freddy car driving away with the gang stuck inside, which is why The Ring steals this slot. For the second to last category, we're going to discuss suppressing spirits, those malevolent forces that seek out innocent human life in order to take it over and eradicate it from the inside out. Damn near every possession film falls into this category, but some standout baddies to consider would be Valak, Annabelle, and Bathsheba of the Conjuring universe, the Lipstick Demon, the Cenobites, the Poltergeist, and my personal favorite, Pazuzu. But if I had to pick the most satisfying demon disposal, nothing beats the destruction of the Event Horizon. Where Event Horizon succeeds in the suppression of spirits is that, unlike all other entries in this section, the host of the spirit, in this case an entire spacecraft, is not only spiritually cleansed, but physically destroyed. Like literally. They have to blow up the entire goddamn ship in order to get those bitches back into hell. And while most possession films concern themselves with trying to save those possessed, Event Horizon says, fuck it! And starts blowing shit up. And it's all the better for it, because after all the hellish nightmares and grisly torture we've had to watch our main characters endure, we want nothing more than to see some goddamn justice served up to those fucking space demons. And when the Hellcraft is finally destroyed, it becomes such a fucking cathartic experience you can almost forgive all the shitty CGI up to that point. Because watching bad guys go boom is satisfying as fuck! And finally, we come to the coup de grace. Pun intended, assholes. I didn't go through 11th grade AP English for nothing. Our final breakdown of delectable deaths of villains goes to killing creatures. We're talking aliens, monsters, freaks of nature, pretty much anything that wants to eat you, and 9 times out of 10, the only way the heroes in flicks end up killing these assholes is by blowing them up. I'm talking about the Xenomorph and Alien, the Crocodiles and Rogue and Lake Placid, all 19 fucking sharks from Deep Blue Sea, the Predator, the Blob, the Thing, and even fucking Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. And like I said before, most of these assholes got exploded or some shit, but none got exploded quite so well as the top dog, or shark for that matter, Jaws. Well, if you watch my other shit, this probably comes as no surprise, seeing as my hard-on for Jaws is bigger than the shark in question. What makes the final confrontation in Jaws so special is that it has a little bit of all the other previously mentioned categories in it. Chief Brody has been tortured by the shark and its very presence, mentally and emotionally, for the entirety of the film. They thought they killed the shark midway through the film, only to realize it takes a hell of a lot more to destroy this particular fish that almost seems possessed in its drive to destroy human life. And finally, when you think about it, Chief Brody is killing an innocent fish just trying to live out its life in some sort of oceanic peace. The point is that the killing of the shark is what the entire film is led up to. From start to finish, this movie is about man overcoming nature, and in those final seconds right before Brody shoots the tank, we are chomping down on our nails and sweating in our pits, hoping and pleading that he'll make the shot, and when he does, it's fucking nirvana. And it doesn't hurt that when he blows up the son of a bitch, he's delivering some kick-ass dialogue as well. And those reasons, plus many more, is what makes Chief Brody killing the shark the most stupidly satisfying death of a horror villain ever put on the big screen.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of the Jony Horror Show, folks. What'd you think? Did I forget to mention any of your favorite satisfying horror villain deaths? Comment below and let me know. Also, don't forget to click the goddamn like button and share this shit with your friends. I'm Johnny Moresco with the Jony Horror Show, wishing you all a very happy Thanksgiving. Don't forget to eat lots of pumpkin pie, kiss your grandma on the cheek, and go fuck yourselves. Alright, Mr. Man. It's time we start working on our Christmas special. Yeah. Gotta start with the Christmas. What the fuck was that? It's Uncle Benny's haunted hayride.